Alright, so today we're going to discuss circle geometry. Circle geometry simply talks about the circle and its relationship with the angles that could be drawn inside or outside the circle. So that's what we are going to be talking about in this lesson. This is just an introductory part. Now, a circle, before we go ahead and talk about the angles in relation to the circle, it would be nice if we were to talk about the circle itself and its special properties or features. Now, the circle can have so many special lines drawn into it. One of those special lines is what we call a diameter. The diameter is a line which cuts the circle into two equal parts, and it is made up of two equal lines which we call the radii. So if we were to cut the diameter into half, it will be called the radius. And if we were to connect 2 points on the circumference of a circle by a single line, is what we call a chord. So a line joining two lines, 2 points on the circumference of a circle is called a chord. C-H-O-R-D. Now, the chord separates the circle into two segments. The first segment, the bigger one, is called the major segment, and the smaller one is called the minor segment. So that is the chord and how it separates the circle into two segments. Let's go ahead and refer to the center of the circle. Now, the center of the circle can be connected by two radii, which are both meeting the center of the circle from the circumference of the circle, like we are seeing there. So these make up the center of the circle, and we can have an angle formed from the center of the circle. So these are the special features or properties of a circle, and we'll be using these mostly to find the angles formed inside of a circle as well as outside of a circle. So basically we'll be drawing lines inside of a circle in relation to the circle itself. So let's just look at the first rule of circle geometry. When we're calculating angles in circle geometry, we follow rules of the properties or theorems. Now, the first rule of the first theorems states that the chord makes an angle. If it makes an angle at the circumference of the circle, then the angle at the center of the circle made by the same chord is twice as big. So that is called the first theorem of circle geometry. So if we were to come up with our chord again, the two far ends of the chord they are basically points, and we can connect those points to the center of the circle to make up an angle. Now, the angle that we're going to produce from there will have a special property in relation to the first theorem of circle geometry. So the angle formed there will be twice as big as any angle you're going to form from the same chord or from the same 2 points to the circumference of a circle. Now, the circumference of a circle simply refers to the distance around the circle. So if we were to form, let's say, an angle there, that angle we form on the circumference of a circle is half the size of the angle formed on the center of the circle. So the angle with theta there represents the angle on the center of the circle formed from our chord there. If that angle was 2x, then that means the new angle we form on the circumference of a circle will be x, half of that angle. The same thing would apply if we were to form the angle on another part of the circumference, on another point in the circumference. The angle will still be half of that angle. So provided we are forming an angle on the circumference of the circle from the same chord, the angle formed on the center is twice as big as the angle formed on the circumference of a circle, given the condition that the angles are being formed from the same chord or from the same points. Today we want to start circle geometry, and you want to